if anybody, there you go. If anybody's wanting to speak on any of the bills, we have a sign-up sheet on the podium. Okay, it is the time to begin. I appreciate everyone being here. I believe the number I got a few moments ago, there are 11 meetings going on this afternoon for to get these very important Senate bills out of the House to be considered on the floor. We appreciate them doing that. But I'm going to digress just for a moment. We haven't seen each other in a while. And I'm just going to brag on somebody. Courtney has an announcement. If you haven't seen her, She's turning red. What is your announcement?
I'm having a baby.
She's having a baby. Yay! Due date is in October, and we're just so thrilled for Courtney and her sweetheart. And, she enjoyed the sequestered quite a bit, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
She did a lot of construction projects at her home. But when I was thinking about this meeting yesterday, I wrote down the first line. I said, of course, thank you for y'all being here. And I said, we will succeed. Because this is, the next week we're going to have to really work hard because there's a lot of Senate bills, and some we're here and some we're not going to hear. But we will have to work together, and hopefully you can attend all the meetings so we can move the bills through. If you haven't taken advantage of the COVID testing by Augusta University, I hope you do. It's a pretty handy thing, and it's pretty quick, and they say very accurate, and I hope you do that. So we're going to start off with our first bill. We are very honored to have our Rules Chairman of the Senate, Senator Mullis of the 53rd. Yes, sir, to the podium. Yay, thank you. Move to pass? Uh-oh, I think Representative Benton must have a retirement bill over there. You can certainly take that mask off, Mr. Chairman, so we can, when I get it.
Well, Mr. Chairman, thank you for allowing me to come before the most distinguished committee in the House. I'm honored so that we can make sure we educate our people correctly here today. And this is, I know you've heard this before, this is a simple bill. This is about the College Career Academy. Now, this actually changed the name, and we moved the date so they can use all their old letterhead before they have to change it. I mean, that's how we're considering this. But it's changed to the Office of College and Career Transition Academy to the Office of College and Career Program. So it's just, did I get that right? No, I did it the other way, right?
College and Career Academies.
Yeah. Now, look, let me tell you, I've been gone too. So please excuse me. This is all about in your community, if you're fortunate enough to have a college and career academy, like Catoosa County, and Representative Hill it has been a major part of that. And when you have industry in your county, a college and career academy helps train the students in high schools to be ready for a job. There are many people who go to college, many people go to technical schools, but some people just go to the career. But we're going to teach you in a college and career academy to go to the job first, if that's what you want. So by working collaboratively with industry and the school system and even the state, this requires everybody working together, not just one aspect of that list that I just made. The basics of the success of this program in my district was that before the COVID, we had 3.4 unemployment, then it went to 2.3 with preparing the startup of this. Of course, now it's 7%, but still the lowest in our district is 7% in Catoosa County, which is Ringo, Fort Oglethorpe, and we're right up against that ugly orange color above us in Tennessee, but we still prevail. But this is preparing our workforce and students to be able to fill well-paying position because they possess the necessary technology skills or technical skills that is required for some of these jobs, some of these manufacturing jobs. And America is trying to get back on train with manufacturing jobs, and the College and Career Academy helps that. And this is just mainly changing the name of their office and also requiring some conglomeration. Help me with that word. Say it.
Collaboration.
Collaboration with everybody in the field that is involved in that. To give you an example, when we were putting together the College and Career Academy, we called it From Here to Career Academy. We raised $500,000 from the public sector, the private sector, to help fund the startup of this College and Career Academy, because they knew that it's going to be where they get their employment from, and we're going to train them at school. I'll be glad to answer any questions if I'm capable.
And so if you'll look at members in front of you, you got a sheet stuck right below your microphone, and you'll have a number. And that way you can help me find you when you have a question. And just, Mr. Chairman, just on that last part on line 78, that's where you're talking about the collaboration.
That's right.
With
Yes, sir.
TCSG. They don't do that. I mean, I figured that's the basis of what they do now.
It is, but it really wasn't stated in the basic origination of the College and Career Academy. And let's just make sure it's drawn out there.
Okay.
We didn't want this to be a state function, even though we're involved. We want it to be from the bottom up.
Yes, sir.
We want everybody to have skin in the game and a stake at risk, including the business and industry, including the local school board, including the state. So we
Right.
want everybody involved.
Any members have any questions? Just let you know. Vice Chairman Chokus, I believe are you 16? I'm 16. Okay.
16. Thank you.
You look older than that.
I just barely. Thank you, Senator. Thank you, Chairman. I share with you the passion you have towards the College and Career Academy,
That's right. I remember that.
and I serve on the State Foundation Board for the Technical College System, and this is the right thing to do, and I appreciate you bringing it forward. And Mr. Chairman, at the appropriate time, I'd like
Okay.
to make the motion.
All right.
Yeah, because we lost out the year before to his school.
Oh, what?
Now, let me tell you, it's a high competitive process, and you have to have your ducks in a row. And I was hoping to bring those guys down here from the College and Career Academy and let them demonstrate how they do business. I'm sorry, I know I should have mentioned this a while ago, but they teach social skills where you identify yourself, you shake somebody's hand, you look them in the eye. And so those things that are kind of should be taught at home that aren't often anymore, they're taught there too. So you have a good segue into a good job.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. No other members have any questions? I see is it 14? Is that Representative Evans?
Yes, Ms.
She's
Sutton.
7. I already punched 14, so who was that? That's me. Oh, go ahead and go there, Representative Hill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Senator. And as you well know, we talked with a lot of these students, and they are so excited because of this. And thank you for bringing it forward. And they're teaching what they call soft skills as well, which is not taught very much anymore. And so this really helps our students, those who are not planning on going on to a 4-year college degree, but they will get anywhere from a 2-year to a 4-year degree with this if they choose to, but they're also work ready when they come out. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. And it takes a real man to wear a pink jacket. I just want to point that out.
Representative Evans.
Thank
Sorry.
you. Thank you, Chairman. Thank you. So I have a question, because in our county, DeKalb, we actually don't have, we have a college academy, and we have Piedmont Technical College, but we don't have a college and career academy, which I'm still trying to understand. But are all technical colleges a part of the Office of College and Career
Yes,
Academies?
that's where it's located, at the technical college.
So if we have a technical college like Piedmont Technical College in DeKalb County, it will be a part of this group.
Yes.
It'll be under
It'll
this
be
heading.
involved. I'm not sure. The college and career academy is with the technical college, so the answer would be yes. I mean, it is housed there.
Okay.
Because in order to receive the grant, if there is a grant, we had to apply and present a strong presentation. And it had to do with our young people being a part of the presentation, and a lot of deliberation regarding what we expect to accomplish out of this.
May I have one more?
Yes,
question?
ma'am,
please.
Yeah, and so, there are other technical colleges outside of the Office of College and Career Academies? That's my question.
Yeah.
Are there other technical university colleges outside of that? This
Yes.
as well? Okay.
Yes, and I'd like to meet with you and talk to you about creating this, because
Mm-hmm.
it's just another tool in the toolbox to help find employees for industry in
Right.
our area.
Right, good. Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
be
Okay.
glad to participate.
Representative Evans, I wrote that down, that we need next year to make sure we have them come present to us. Because they're, the neat thing about college and career academies is they're local. And they come in all different permutations. I mean, it's all over the board, but
And
to
I-
be local.
And I
which
do
is-
remember that when we had the state Board of Education retreat and learning about
Yes, ma'am.
that, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's very inspirational. In fact, sometimes tearful. It's so
Number 4
impactful.
is Stovall. Thank you.
Thank you, my dear.
You did. You said.
Okay.
You're
There
there.
you go.
I was just going to add some clarity for Representative Evans about it, if I may.
Sure. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. It's usually done through the school district, and that's a collaboration that happens. And it's established, the school district actually establishes a charter school in order for it to be able to function because of the flexibility. Or they can use a strategic waiver part. It's kind of complicated a little bit, but it's done through your school district. So if you talk with the DeKalb County, your superintendent and board members about it, and they may have already had some plans on the books. And like you said, you have to have the collaboration of the technical college and other outside corporate partners as well. And then they apply for a grant through the technical college system to be able to help fund part of it. But the local has to put in money as well for it to be successful. And like if you want to, I know Rockdale has one. I visited one in Rockdale, Henry County, and there was one other, and I got a chance to visit. We're working on one in Clayton County, but it's really good opportunity for the students.
Thank you, ma'am, for your explanation. Representative Lopez Romero, you're 10, I think. Okay.
I just wanted to say that I appreciate the work. I had the opportunity through Leadership Georgia to go visit the Bartow County Academy that's there and meet with the students and see the different programs. So it's a good innovative way, as you mentioned, to make sure that we have all sorts of skills being taught. And just generally, I always do give that caveat of making sure that we aren't funneling kids, right? And just something that we always have to keep in mind, even in these localized areas, that we're not just funneling kids to be employees of an industry. But of course, should be an option in addition
Right.
to college readiness.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Mr.
Representative
Chairman,
Dickerson.
Where you getting the next friend of mine? Catoosa County has 3 high schools, and they created this and building it in the middle of the 3 high schools, and also putting a 911 center as part of the training. So their economic development folks will be there, the 911 folks will be there, and as part of the internship perhaps if they want to do that. And that was given by the county, not the school system. So again, everybody's working together in that. I'm sorry.
Representative Dickerson, repress your button. I clicked you off accidentally.
Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Chairman Mullis. If you would like to come to Rockdale or Newton County, which I represent, we have 2 of the finest career and college academies down there. I did.
Oh, he's talking behind you. I'm sorry.
And thank you so much because,
Thank you.
the students are really gaining a lot of experience through these
And they're
career
motivated
academies.
and excited about it too,
Exactly.
from what I've seen.
Yes, thank you. And we have one of the best culinary colleges down there, the
Well,
schools.
you think I like food? Is that what you're indicating? It would be true.
Thank you, ma'am. Representative Chokus, recognize you for a motion.
Thank you, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to move that LC 490212S SCS Senate Bill 416 receive the due pass recommendation from our committee.
We have a second. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The opposite, nay.
Mr. Chairman,
Thank you, Mr.
thank you
Chairman.
for handling this for me on the floor of the House.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Yeah, I'm doing it.
Thank you, committee.
Thank
Let me
you.
know how I can help you in my little old committee too.
You'll enjoy it. Chairman Wilkinson. If y'all don't know, Chairman Wilkinson has been a busy guy during the last 2 months running for a congressional seat.
I got a little bit more time now, though.
Yeah. Well, we sure appreciate your offering for service and that, and you worked very hard.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
We recognize you for your bill 431.
Senate Bill 431. Are we working off LC 490149? Is that what you have?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I thought I would just read the bill since it's 2 sentences. As used in this subsection, the term on-time graduation rate means the graduation rate of the 4-year cohort of students that attend the school continuously from October 1st of the calendar year, 4 years prior to the calendar year of the regular date of the graduation of that cohort, and graduate on or before that regular date of graduation. This graduation rate shall be calculated in addition to, and not as a substitute for, any other graduation rate provided by federal, state, or local law or regulation. Now, I think that is pretty straightforward, but I think basically what this is saying, currently many students register for school in July or August, but never attend the school that they register for. And when that happens, currently the schools are accountable and must track down the students. It's a burden on the staff and counts against the school's graduation rate, even though the student never attended. By using an October 1st date to count students, which coincides with mandatory mid-year count, the legislation allows schools to have a more accurate count of the 4-year graduation cohort rate, and the schools must still comply with any federal requirements. Now, I know you've got people on this committee. I know my state representative, Representative Irwin, who's a former county school superintendent of the year in the state of Georgia. He may, if I have any hard questions, I may have to fall back on him, but I hope I've done a fairly accurate job describing what this does. There's no cost, and I do think it just gives our school systems, it cuts down on a lot of work that a lot of staff people are currently having to do, and it lets them concentrate on the business of educating our students. So I would appreciate your favorable consideration.
So just one question. So, Mr. Chairman, so they'll have another box, graph, or whatever that will identify this October 1st count date rather than what they're doing currently. They'll just be the additional thing. It's not taking away anything.
It is not.
Okay, number 4, is that Ms. Valencia?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a question. So with the October the 1st date, I know that's usually when the FTE count is done. So what happens if with the student getting credit for August and September of them being in school? I'm just trying to understand the on-time graduation rate. Would they lose that additional time, or say a student comes in November, which means they would not have been counted for October? So would they not have the on-time graduation rate? Would they not be calculated in that?
I'm going to try to keep this as simple as I can. I mean, I don't think there's any perfect scenario or perfect way to count them, but currently they're counting them when they pre-register maybe in July, and you're getting people that never attend that school. At least with this count, we see it as a little bit more accurate, because at least you're measuring people who have in fact enrolled in that school and who have been in school. I don't think it's a perfect scenario, but I think it's more fair to count people who actually enrolled than to be looking for people who never attended school one day.
May I do a follow-up, Mr. Chairman?
Oh, yes, ma'am, please.
Okay, so I want to make sure I understand. So right now, there's no actual cutoff designated time, and so with this bill saying if you're enrolled by October the 1st, then you're considered, if you meet all the other requirements, then you'll be on time for graduation.
Now, if I
mess
this up, correct me. I won't be offended. You got a 4-year cohort,
right?
A 4-year cohort for graduation rate, and right now we're starting in July or whatever with people who have not enrolled in the school yet. So basically, what this is doing is getting a count of people who at least have attended school.
Are you good?
Not really, but I yield. Somebody else might have another question. I'm just trying
Okay.
to understand the
Yes, ma'am.
rationale with the October the 1st.
And I think, Mr. Chairman, you're going on is that's when the FTE is counted.
Yeah, it coincides with that.
They're just, and it's kind of a firm number. I think we got to see Ms. Lopez Romero is 10.
Yes, sir. Just a quick question to, clarification for myself. The portion that says the continuously, attend the school continuously, within those four-year brackets, so that is basically you'd have to go both semesters, not necessarily summer, so continuously in that sense?
I'll tell you what, I really want y'all to understand this before you have to vote on it. I think I understand in my mind, but we got somebody here from Cobb County that worked on this that's smarter than I am. Do you mind if I let her come up here and speak to that?
Why, we'd love to have her, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Just come on up and introduce yourself and answer these questions. See if you can get me a positive vote on it.
I'm glad. The women usually are smarter.
Oh, let here now.
Hi,
Equal.
I'm Gretchen Walton. I am Cobb County School District's Compliance and Legislative Affairs Officer. And so do you mind repeating your question for me? I was listening, but I'd like to make sure I answer accurately.
In terms of what continuous meant within those 4 years, is it basically going the 2 semesters, not necessarily summer?
Right, it's the normal school year.
Okay.
Correct.
A full year, academic year.
Correct.
Okay.
And I will also say, I think I heard your concern is about FTE being affected, and this is completely separate from that. So if that is what I was hearing accurately, this is not related to that. It was pushing the date closer to that because July 1, kids sign up and don't ever show up, and then they count against our schools.
So if I may, what do you envision, since you've been impetus behind this, that this bill will do for your system?
So right now, the way that the grad rates run is kids can come in and out, and so the kids coming in and out count against high school X if they then go someplace else. So we literally have staff assigned to help hunt kids down because your grad rate's important. And so this is running a parallel grad rate to show when kids are fully educated at a school, like we actually get to hold on to them, that there is a huge difference in how many kids walk across the stage at the end. And this is across the state, this isn't just Cobb County. There's a big difference when you get to hold on to them. And a lot of times when kids leave, it's for outside of school reasons, right? So that's really the purpose, is so that there's a secondary number for our schools that are doing great work to really be a testament to that.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, to me,
Okay.
yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Any other members have a question? I'll also ask, is there anyone else who would like to speak? Ms. Tiffany, would you like to speak from DOE?
Thank you. I appreciate it. We certainly, for the most part, don't have an issue with the bill. It would be an additional calculation that would be provided. I would say, as you talk about, if there are any changes, just the language of continuously, because I think that can be confusing as to what that's meant by if it's not defined within the bill. Then the assumption would be that you're only counting the students that are throughout the entire 4 years in that during that time for the graduation rate. So that we don't have a problem with the October 1st date, but the continuously would be a problem, I think.
Well, we should hope. So what would your suggestion be, ma'am, on a different word?
So as I understand, I believe Cobb County and Senator Wilkinson are looking to move back the date to October 1st. So you're just removing the continuously and starting that calculation for graduation rate from October 1st.
So the writ would read that attend a school from October 1st. Just leave out the word continuously.
Yes,
Is
sir.
that what your suggestion?
Yes, sir.
Okay. See, number 9, who is that? Right. Oh, Ms. Dickerson, okay.
Now, I was going to ask the same question for clarification. when she wanted to move continuously, what did she mean by that? Because like she said earlier, you're talking about summer school, so you're gonna take the summer school out, but just a continuous 2 semesters, the fall from July to the end of the school year in May, right? Is that correct? When you talk about continuously, you wanted to take that out so that it wouldn't be as if you're talking about the summer sessions as well, or?
Right, I think that because continuously is not defined,
Okay.
then it can be interpreted a number of different ways.
Well,
So I think to make it cleaner,
yes,
correct.
that's
to
what I
be
was
able to-
asking.
yes.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Chairman, does that undermine what you're doing here? If I
I'd
take
just
it
like
out?
to preface my remarks by saying I worked for that outfit for 26 years, so it doesn't surprise me that they got a suggestion like that, but I don't think it hurts it at all. Take continuously out, and I'd be fine with that.
Okay.
And if you got any questions about cows and hogs, I'm pretty good at answering those.
We're good with that. Good with that here. Yeah, you are the water buffalo, man. Ms. Stovall. Hang on just, Mr. Chairman.
I guess the word continuously, and I guess going back to what Tiffany had mentioned about the definition, because it seemed like it might, if a student leaves school between from that October to the next calculation date, would that affect that on-time graduation rate with them not staying there continuously at that particular school, and that graduation rate not following them to the other school?
Yeah.
You'll have to come to the microphone, ma'am.
So if they move, they're still part of a grad rate as long as they're still in school. Does that answer your question?
So what happens, like, if they go to another school and they actually graduate from that particular, say they started in school A and they were there from the October 1st count, and say in December they moved to another school, who would have that graduation rate calculation?
So they're in wherever they start 9th grade, and this is actually Ms. Taylor's domain, because I'm now speaking of the actual prescribed, not necessarily the bill, but the prescribed grad rate calculation. Wherever they start, they're in what's called a 9th grade cohort, and so if they started at Sprayberry High School, one of our schools, and then they transferred someplace in another county, as long as we know that they've graduated, they either count for or against wherever they've started.
So
That's why it's so complicated, right? That's why we're literally chasing kids down, because if they leave, we have to know where they are. I mean, the great thing is they have given us a digital system, so if they stay in the state of Georgia, it's not quite as complicated, but as we all know, everyone doesn't stay here. So I see you shaking your head, you've been there, right? It's really complicated. So the hope with this bill was that there would be a parallel rate that was less complicated. That's actually why continuously was originally in there. We don't have a problem with it being stripped out. I mean, it doesn't, but it was to try to give a more complete picture of what is happening in our schools. Because right now we're under, it's not even the DOE, it's a federal mandate.
And I
for
think
how
the
we
key
do our grad
motion,
rate.
the key idea here is that this is an addition to. It's not
Correct.
subtracting or doing away with anything we're currently doing.
Correct.
This is just another metric.
Yes.
Yes, go ahead, ma'am.
All right. So taking that example that you gave, it seemed like to me that continuously should stay in there, because if you're tracking the students from October the 1st and with that cohort starting in 9th grade and going to 12th grade, it will give a more accurate picture, to me, in my opinion, for that particular school, because they would have started and they have continuously been there. And I do understand not knowing what that definition is, but now I understand a little bit better about the continuous, and then the other question I asked a little bit earlier, because I just was wondering, I didn't want one school to be penalized because a student started there and then they transferred to another school after the count was done, and then the other school gets the credit for the graduation rate and not the other school, that they were there for the FTE count for that October the 1st.
That makes sense.
Oh, sorry. And to clarify, the school wouldn't be penalized, so we count the students at the school where they're at. So if the student moves, then the new school gets the calculation for that student, but the other school isn't penalized for that student moving, is what we're trying to.
Would there be two graduation calculations done?
Yes.
So it would be the same, you still have one graduation calculation, but that student counts in the cohort at the school that they're in, so they're still in their same cohort. So the previous school is not penalized because that student is still graduating on time within the graduation cohort at the new school. So it doesn't then affect the school that they left.
So the school that they left still gets credit for them being there up until the
But
time.
they don't get negatively affected by that.
But I'm saying, do they still get credit for them? Because it's either gonna be, it can't be neutral, I mean, because if the child leaves, I'm trying not to
Well,
make it so complicated.
Right, but you're right, they're not a student there, so it wouldn't affect their rate, if that makes sense. And
It doesn't go in the dropout rate.
Right.
That's why the answer feels like it's neutral, right? They're two different rates. And where it would count against the previous school, feel free to redirect. Where it would count against the previous school would be if the kid we couldn't find them, they're counted as a dropout. So if we don't know where they go, they are a dropout. But if we've documented and we can find them, it's easy.
Right, in most cases, we know where kids go from one school to the next. So what I think they're trying to account for is when a student leaves school and they don't know that they've gone anywhere else, then that does count against the school because we have no then track of where that student went. So we assume they've dropped out because they haven't come back into the system in some other school or some other way.
It is super complicated.
Thank
Hey,
you.
I
Thank you.
I just want to add this. I don't want to prolong this. Trust me, I really do not want to prolong this.
Well, I'm going to try not to.
Hey, but-
Also, but
Yeah, but I'm going to tell you why I introduced this bill. Let me just tell you why I introduced the bill. I don't know all these hypotheticals and if this happened and did that happen. This is why I introduced the bill. There are kids that pre-register and never attend a school. But just by the fact they pre-registered, staff in that school have to track them down and find where they went and locate them. And I just think the resources we have in education, and I did work in education, I think our resources ought to be spent on helping children, working with children, and not paying people to have to go out and find out where someone is who never attended a school there in the first place. And I think this bill addresses that and lets us use those resources to help our children instead of trying to track down people that never attended a school.
you should have started off with that. Mr. Chairman. Sound like a campaign speech right then to me. I just want to add to the committee, I think Representative Stovall's comments about leaving continuously in there do have validity, and I'd like to not remove that word. I think you made it clear that it needs to be in there for continuity of the bill. Thank you. All right. Any other questions for the committee? You shaking your head? Okay. Okay, so I need a hand something, right? If I make a motion, Dominic LaRicchia, a second. Got a second? All those in favor, aye. Any opposed? Your bill moves. Thank you. And Randy Nix is going to.
Randy Nix is going to carry it.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you to all the members of the committee for the important work that you do and the interest you have in young people.
Well, thank you. Hey, Mr. Chairman, I don't know if it's your last time in here or not, but we appreciate your service to children.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you to committee. Let's move on to Senate Bill 430. Representative Ligon. Busy man.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Appreciate you allowing me to come and present.
Yes,
the
sir.
bill. I'll pull my mask off here. This bill, I brought this bill at the request of our local college and career academy in Glenn County, and it's a standalone facility, and they had some space, and all this does, it makes it clear that a local school system is authorized to enroll either homeschoolers or private schoolers to take a class in that college and career academy if space is available. This allows them to take courses that they may be interested in. It authorizes the State Board of Education to make rules and regulations for the administration of this process. And those students obviously have to meet all the requirements for enrollment and participation that in the course that other students would. Those students are responsible for their transportation to and from the Career Academy. And then the school would earn the FTE funds for that course that's taken by the student. But it's not mandatory. There was just some ambiguity in the law. The school system there was wanting to do that. The Career Academy was wanting to be able to do that. And so they asked for this legislation to make that clarification. So.
Senator, currently in college and career academies, some of them are already doing this. Is that not true?
Some of them may. I don't know whether they are across the state. It certainly is possible that there are some that are doing it and they felt that they didn't need the law.
Sure.
Our school system did and asked for it, and I certainly wanted to support them and help them, and I agreed to bring the bill.
So, committee, as you look over this, we'll give you just a minute. If you have any questions on it, punch your button, and I'll look forward to Representative Stovall.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Senator, for this bill. I think it allows homeschooling and private school students to be able to take advantage of additional training. The question I do have is, how will the parents know whether there's space available? And that, because I know that I don't want to say this about the school districts, but we do have some that don't too much fare a lot to homeschool and private school students. And so I was just wondering what kind of mechanism to make sure that they are truthful about whether they have space or not.
Well, you know, the bill doesn't spell out a mechanism for that to happen. I guess they could go and talk to the school principal, but there may be a way under C where it says the State Board of Education shall promote rules and regulations to effectuate the provision of this subsection, which may include but not limited to. So the state board could promulgate rules that require transparency and reporting about the availability of space in a course or a classroom in a career academy. Okay?
All right, thank you.
Anyone else? I'd be welcome for a motion. Vice Chairman Chokus, motion to pass. A second. Ms. Valencia, second. All those in favor of this Senate Bill 430 moving forward? Aye. Any opposed? Nay. Had one nay. Thank you. You move forward.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I need someone to carry the bill here for me.
I talked to Vice Chairman Chokus about that.
Okay.
And
We take that. Okay.
be good for him.
Thank you.
Get up there. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. Bye-bye.
Next, Mr. Education Chairman. We're so happy to see you. Did you have a good meeting just a moment ago?
We did. Passed
Well-
a few one House bill out anyways. We got another opportunity to do a little more in the future here.
Here. Well, we're glad you're here. If you'll look in your folder, you'll find SB 367. And it's a very important bill that we're going to look at. We have questions on it. Well, yes, sir. Thank you for taking that off. And we look forward to Chairman Martin's presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My phone's ringing, so I can't open my iPad. See if I can silence that. There it goes. Forgive me. I know it. I know it. Technology is terrible. Thank you guys for hearing SB 367. This is a bill that I was glad to hear that Governor Kemp was going to make a priority, and he asked me to carry this bill, and so on his behalf. And one of the things he and Superintendent Woods did a listening tour, and one of the biggest complaints they heard, and they heard it at every stop, was the high stakes standardized testing. There's too much of it. It gives teachers a lot of stress. It gives our kids a lot of stress. And oftentimes it's not even the best way of seeing if the kids have actually learned the material in every situation. So what SB 367 does is we attempt to reduce standardized testing in Georgia. So what does it do? Now, I do understand that there's possibly a few changes in the works from the esteemed Chairman of Education here in the House, and I look forward to seeing those in detail. But what I did want to do is go ahead and see. I assume LC 490123 is what you're working from. Is that
Yes,
correct?
sir.
Okay. So what does it do? The first thing that it does is it removes 5. Currently, we have 7 assessments that are in excess of the federal minimums. This removes 5 of those excess assessments. The 2 remaining assessments are 8th grade Georgia history and high school social studies. It also does allow greater flexibility to administer the high school writing assessment as well. You can take that at any time during high school instead of it having to be, I think current code says, in 11th grade. And that's lines 57 through 65 in the bill. Secondly, it reduces the weight of assessments. So it's going to allow the State Board of Education, currently it's required that these be a part of your final grade. This bill here removes that requirement. It says that the State Board may allow that to be a part of your grade, but that is what kind of helps remove some of the high stakes portion of the bill of these tests. So we can still find out what these kids know, where they're at, but it doesn't necessarily have to count as a part of their final grade. Again, we leave that up to the State Board of Education to handle that. That's lines 152 through 154. And I'm going to start giving you line numbers prior to my explanation so you can follow along better. Thirdly, on lines 198 through lines 212, this maximizes instruction time with a new testing period for elementary and middle school. So the Milestones tests in years which we have it, which of course this past year we did not, but it has to be taken during the last 25 days of the school year. So that's going to maximize the instruction time, and I think that's a good improvement there. You say, why don't we do that in high school? Well, because high school, they work in semesters, and so they have to have that flexibility. And then fourthly, this is lines 50, and I've jumped around. I don't know why I did, but I did. Lines 51 through 55, and also lines 79 through 83. We wanted to shorten the length of Georgia Milestones. So currently, there are some norm-referenced items that are included in Milestones. The state currently uses other norms-referenced tests. They use the SAT and the ACT, of course. You guys are familiar with that. That lets us compare how we're doing with other states. But we also use the National Assessment of Educational Progress. The short term for that is NAEP. And that is another test that's available and that we use in order to compare ourselves with other states. So there was a piece put into the Georgia Milestones when that was changed a few years ago that required those additional testing questions be put in to make the Georgia Milestones also norm referenced. And I believe the code now says that has to be administered to the parents and the students. And so we're not making great use of that at the department level. So we said, why don't we shorten this test as well? Let's leave the norm reference testing to the norm reference test that focus on that. And then let's make sure that Milestones does what it's supposed to do, which is measure the progress our students are making. And then number 5 is, that's lines 230 through 245. This gives the Department of Education the ability to assist local school districts with reducing local assessments and helping them analyze their current assessments so that they can identify and eliminate any redundancies that may be there in what they're doing. And finally, there was some encouraging language that was in there on lines 31 through 39 for local districts to implement formative assessments. I do understand, I've heard through the grapevine that the chairman might want to keep that language in there, which is fine with me if you want to do that. I have no problem. Doesn't really change anything substantive in the bill. It just would remain in there. The encouraging language would be there. So that is SB 367. And if I get stumped, because it's been a number of months since I was very well knowledgeable on this bill, I do have Miss Miranda Williams here from the governor's office, and then also Tiffany Taylor to help.
Certainly. Well, I've got a blinking light. I'll go ahead and recognize. I believe it's Chairman Benton. 8. Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senator, I got a couple of questions. Of course, as a former teacher, I felt like we've always put too much pressure on kids with these tests and so forth. But I am concerned about us without us having some weight to them, because if we don't have some weight to them, then they're not going to try. It'll just be it'll just be wasted time. The second thing is that I thought we did this several years ago with a bill that Lindsey Tippins passed through here, and the problem that I saw was that we were saying that the state wasn't going to require it, but we didn't tell the systems that they didn't have to give it. And so a lot of systems are going ahead and giving it anyway, and there's still that pressure on the kids because the systems are wanting to see what they're doing each year. And so I didn't see it in the bill, but I was wondering if you have anything in there that requires the systems not to give the test.
No, there's nothing in there that requires them not to, but we do give the Department of Education the ability in number 5, that's the lines 230 to 245. We give them the ability to go and work with those schools to see if they do have these redundancies in testing that is unnecessary. Yeah. So we want to empower the department to work with, we don't want to completely step on local control. We want to make sure that we maintain local control in our school districts. I think that's important. But we also want to empower the department to be able to work with these schools to make sure that they're not over-testing. I hear that as well from teachers, that oftentimes it's the school district.
It's the district.
The district assessments are often very much too.
Causing so much that the state required testing is not that bad anymore. It's the local systems that are saying, okay, well, the state's not making us do it, but we're going to do it just to see where we are.
Well, my hope is that you'll give us the opportunity to make us less bad.
Well,
less not bad, more not bad. I don't know how to say that right to make it.
We're not the ones that's causing. I don't think we're the ones that's causing the problem. I think we addressed that on the state level, but it's on the local level that I think the problem is. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Chairman. Ms. Pam, you're number 9.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would like to concur with Representative Benton, because we did reduce the testing, and Senator Tippins did drop it down. So what are the measures for determining, if these kids are doing better or worse? Because you're dropping it. You're saying you're taking away 5 assessment tests from, and that would just leave 2 for the year?
It leaves 2 over the federal minimum. So there's still plenty of, we're not doing away with all testing. There still will be testing. There's testing done all through high school. We still have 8th grade social studies. We still have.
So do you know the numbers?
The remaining assessments are going to be grades 3 and 4, English language arts. Easy for me to say, and math, so that's grades 3 and 4. Grades 5, English, language arts, math, and science. Grades 6 and 7, ELA and math. Grade 8, English, language arts, math, science, and social studies, which is Georgia history, and that's one of the ones we did not want to get rid of. That's not required by the federal. We maintain that. And then grades 9 through 12, you have English, math, science, and social studies. And of course, there's writing assessments included within that English. So there's still assessments along the way. We're not doing away with all assessments. But there were still, I mean, I think we had 7 over the federal minimums that we were requiring as a state. And so what we're doing is we're taking away 5 of those required, that were not required by the state. We're still leaving the 2 that we felt were very important.
Okay, thank you.
Let's see, number 6, who is?
Right here. Thank you, Mr.
Dominic,
Chairman.
thank you.
And I know that you mentioned that the governor had worked with State School Superintendent Richard Woods, and I had heard this conversation for a while, but just the confidence that it gives me and the way that they went about that, traveling around the state and talking to educators, talking to superintendents and school boards, and really making sure that they heard the good and the bad about what they were doing. I know I had a teacher in my district who was I guess she's probably taught school for 25, almost 30 years. She was pretty hard on them, about her thoughts on some of the reducing the testing, like Chairman Benton said, with, if you're going to reduce, I think you still need to keep the weight. But y'all have done a great job of taking all of that into consideration. That is the final product of what you bring here, with the exception of Chairman Jasper's wanting to leave 31 through whatever, and that's fine. But just really wanted to.
I think he has a few more changes too.
Got a wish list.
I really just wanted to say, from my standpoint and from what I know about how hard the governor and everyone's worked on this, that they really did it in a thoughtful way and traveled all across the state to come up with what we're working with today.
I think it's a great example of, appreciate the comment, I think it's a great example of responsive government.
Okay, Representative Wilson, what number are you? 17, okay. There you go.
Senator, thanks for stepping back so you can see me here. My question is, what is your intended intent for when this would become effective? And I raise that point because my understanding, and my more senior colleagues may, I defer to their experience, but my understanding is if this is signed, if it's passed by this committee and the House passes this, and it's signed by the governor after July 1 without a specified effective date, it would not take effect until January 1 of next year. And so I just posed that question to see how that affects your analysis.
Hold 1 second.
What's your understanding?
We'll ask the expert on who will be implementing this and see what her opinion is on that.
The intent would be for July 1.
July 1st.
So, I'm sorry. I forget I have my mask on because I wear it all day now. My apologies. The intent would be for July 1, preferably.
Of this year?
Yes.
So I might suggest then, Mr. Chairman, we just dealt with this in judiciary. That's why I'm bringing this up now. It's fresh on my mind. That you might consider amending this and adding a specific effective date, maybe August 1 or July 15, or to give the governor some time to consider whether he's going to take any action on this or not, but for it to take effect before January 1.
Okay. Thank you. Number 10, and that is Ms. Lopez Romero.
Yes.
Oops, sorry. There you go.
Oh, yes, Mr. Chairman. My question is more about when are we going to have the amended bill with these changes, including providing for an effective date, so that we could actually review what might actually pass. When are we going to have the amended bill?
I'm going to have one. Excuse me. We have a meeting on Friday.
Okay.
We'll have it before the meeting.
You'll have it before this
Yes, ma'am.
Friday?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I'm
Because
listening
I'd rather
right now.
obviously look to see what.
I have
those-
my ideas, but I'm listening too.
Right. So because I'd rather obviously us talk about a bill that we might actually vote on.
Well, I mean, I'm sure after my very
Inspiring.
convincing presentation, you might get to vote on this. We'll find out.
No. See, number 4 is.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Chairman. The question I have is, being that we are looking at budget cuts and the duties of the Department of Education, what is the practicability or how practical will it be for the DOE to be able to go and monitor those schools to ensure, as what you said, from line 235 or so all the way down about that analysis that they're going to be doing to making sure that there's some accountability to a certain extent that the local school districts are not over testing.
Well, I think, you know, as we read, I believe that I also heard another thing through the grapevine. There might be a shall may change in here as well on this piece of legislation, this part of the legislation. But it actually reads now, it says that it's permissive that they conduct that analysis. So the conducting of the analysis is not a shall in the legislation on line 240.
Right.
It's actually permissive. So if the budget cuts if they are unable to do that immediately, then I don't believe they would be required to do it. Then I think that what it says is that if they do conduct it, then they shall work with the districts to do that. But I have a feeling that we might continue to work on that language a little more to make it maybe a little more clear that it's permissive that the department can do that. Because the intent is to empower them to do that if they feel that that's necessary and if they have the staff in order to do that, of course, as well.
Yeah, like I said, going back to the budget cuts, and I know that even when you start looking at the
and
school
Ms. Taylor
improvement.
wants to speak to that too, because she is.
And that work is also building on an initiative that had started in conjunction with the Georgia Partnership. So we will also continue to work with the Georgia Partnership for Excellence in Education in assisting with that work as well. So it would be a joint effort to be able to continue.
If I'm just Mr. Chairman.
Yes,
Yeah,
ma'am.
just like I said, I just had a concern because we're looking at all the budget cuts, and then the different departments like DOE is going to be looking at what's going to be the most needed priority, and I just don't want it to be that, we can't get to it and we're not required to do it. So we'll just, hopefully the school districts will do what they're supposed to do, and then we'll be right back at this junction again of the teachers. And I know I've done a lot of the tours as well, where the teachers were saying, and they were really shocked when we told them it was their local school district and not so much as the state. And so that was my biggest concern with that 240, is that it could be pushed over, being that there are some other priorities like our school improvement districts and stuff like that.
Thank you, ma'am.
And maybe, with obviously I know the local school districts have been looking at ways to reduce their budgets. I mean, they've been working hard on that. Maybe, I know these tests cost money to be able to deliver, and maybe a little less testing is part of their solution.
I think if you meet in mind, I got questions I want to go through, and I kind of give you some thoughts about what I'm thinking about. Tiffany may want to be there too with you, Mr. Chairman, just because, when I looked at this, I absolutely agree that on our end we need to do, where the chairman talked about reducing the number of tests again, and I think that's important, and as we've done before. But there's little nuances in this bill that kind of undermine, to me, some of the work that this committee has done over the last few years in creating a atmosphere of accountability and knowledge of what's going on, and expectations. And then, like you look on lines 31 through 36, it looks like we're removing, when we cross this out, removing the emphasis on third grade reading excellence and fifth grade from the code. I think that's something this committee that I've understood, and we as a group have always wanted to do to make sure that that's a good goal and attain that. And since some are others and we test for it, but saying that in codes does put a little pressure on systems that we think that that's important. And I've asked some questions, and us and Tiffany we'll work on a little bit change in that language there. I do want to make sure that the committee knows on line 46, when we're talking about, taking out one, U.S. history is the one we'll no longer test for. And we'll be testing for Georgia history continue as we are now, just so you know that. Some people have a real problem with that. That I've gotten a few comments from other folks as they figured that out. You look at, lines 53 through 56, and like Chairman said, the accompanying lines are over on 79 and 80. Comparability, why take this away? And that's my, if we have 80 questions now, we can easily move it to 70 and still include 10 questions for comparison ability. There's no reason why the test has to be so long, but those 10 questions can be integrated within it. It doesn't reduce, this thing wouldn't reduce that testing, but it does, and I think comparison is important. I think our ability to see how we're doing educationally with other states is important. I know other members in years gone past have wanted to really make this tougher that, currently we don't do this. We don't compare. And there are some who want us to compare, to make sure how we're doing compared to others. And look on, line 58, that's the gold here. That's the cake, the pie with the icing and everything. And we're absolutely there, and agree with the idea of removing those. I had a couple other little things. When we look over on 152, let's see, right here, when I looked at the research over this, when I was sitting around, over the winter, or during when we were out thinking about this and talking to other teachers, and I've had many to talk to me, and I think as Chairman Benton said, having some EOCT skin in the game is not a bad idea. And, currently the state board sets the percentage, it's at 20. They could move it to 10 if they wanted to, or they could actually move it to 0. I mean, if that were what they wanted to do. But having some skin in the game is a good thing. And I think the accountability partners that we work with in education, I think it's very important to leave that in there. And, that's one thing I'm considering. Lastly, we look down here on 240. They are currently doing this. And I think it's great that DOE is going throughout the state offering their services to help systems do exactly what your committee has said, that there are too many tests, as Chairman Benton even said. But I think I guess I have a problem about putting it in code and ensuring this and the shall in there. When I first read it the first time, if you've ever looked at a bill I've written on, I wrote the word harass there, systems, and I'd have a problem with that. But they're doing it now. And I don't know that putting it in code really helps the situation, but they're at your service for any of your systems right now to be able to go in there and help you determine if you have too many tests or not, and which ones you need to remove. Because it's a local control issue. If the community wants you to remove testing, lower testing, your board and their leadership can debate it with the community, and they need to. And communities need to be involved in pushing for whatever testing, and everybody makes their statement and idea on what they should do. But those are some comments that I had on it, kind of give you some ideas, as chairman and I've talked, and DOE and I have talked, and others, where I'm at with some of these things. I'll turn it back over to questions, and I think Chairman Belton was next. What number are you, Chairman? Number 12. 12? Yeah, there you go.
Well, thank you, Chairman. I certainly agree with your comments you just made there. But for the senator, isn't it true that, picking back on what Representative LaRicchia said, that passing a bill, a modified bill, according to the chair, would validate to the teachers and the parents at home that the governor and the state superintendent is listening to their concerns about too much testing?
I mean, I think it would validate that we agreed that, I think by them coming forward and submitting something to us is definitely validating that, and we would confirm their work. Absolutely. I would say them coming to us already and presenting a bill for us to pass already validates what they've done, because they did a lot of work and they listened and they've done that work. So I don't think there's any question about the work that they've done and their dedication to this. So now it's up to us to finish it up.
Thanks, sir.
Yes, sir. Representative Evans, you're 7.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for bringing this bill forward. Is there like an analysis of how many tests students take now that the state requires, and then could that be put together on one document? Like, what do they take now? And then I would like to know the other ones that we are removing in addition to the U.S. history, the other.
We can absolutely get that for you.
Yeah. And one thing I remember reading about when I was learning about this just in the newspaper, whatever, several months ago, is that some of the feedback was it was for the younger children that have a lot of test anxiety. And but my understanding is that we're not able to remove those test requirements. I'd like to know a little bit more about that, because I think
Yeah, we're basically already at the federal minimum, other than I believe it's 5th grade social studies, which is the U.S. history.
Mm-hmm.
But again, they're tested for that in high school.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the idea, that we did want to offer some relief, which is why we did that. It's not because history is not important.
Mm-hmm.
It's because that is repeated again in high school. And so the idea was that we do want to give relief to these children, because that's one of the places we could go. We didn't want to get rid of Georgia history. We felt like that was important in 8th grade to make sure that they had a master of that, because we do live in Georgia. So, but yeah, that was the idea, and one of the reasons why we removed that other one in elementary school.
Oh, so you did remove one in so that's
the
yeah.
current bill has one removed in elementary school.
Okay, yeah. So I would be interested just to know what was removed, and then what is required. I'd like to be educated about that. What are we requiring as a state?
That should be fairly easy to provide for you before the next meeting.
Thank you.
And I think, Representative Evans, it'd be good if you went to your local system and asked them for the similar document.
Right, okay.
You know, what, DeKalb is doing, or the other, and I think you'd see a difference in then what he just read off. Yeah, I guess you'll just assume you just read off all of them just a moment ago.
I read off the ones that were correct, that are left. I did not read off the ones that are missing because they weren't on my list, that are going away. But
okay. Number 10, that's...
I just wanted to note also in the conversation as the modifications are being made that it's intertwined and related with our budget. I've had a couple of teachers reach out to me regarding the allocation of funding for the standardized testing versus shifting it over now that there's going to be budget cuts to more programmatic and operational things within our school budget. So keeping that into consideration with whatever modifications and changes, whether that would allow us to be able to budget some money away from the standardized testing to other priorities for our school system.
that was brought up in Senate committee, and that's the hope, obviously.
If I'm not mistaken, I haven't seen the budget that y'all passed out but I've heard great things about the education part of the budget. But I think on the testing, that money has been removed as part of the cut for these four.
I haven't seen, we haven't passed I haven't seen it yet, but yeah, that's right.
I think it's already out as part of the cut that was in generally. It's already been taken out. It was part of the reduction.
Okay, I'll reconfirm because I had a couple
pretty
of
sure it
teachers
is.
reach out to me regarding that. So
Okay.
I don't know if that was pre the final.
Yeah.
draft.
It makes rational sense that would be the case. If we're going to have if there's going to be less testing, that there would be less money required to give the fewer tests.
Pardon? Oh, excuse me, Chairman Nix. What number are you?
I'm lucky number 13.
Oh, there you go.
Thank you. Thank you, Senator. Like Chairman Jaspers, I've got some concerns. I've been on this committee for a long time. We went around the state 4 or 5 years ago and heard the same comments that you're hearing. And that's what led to Senator Tippin's bill, where we reduced the number of tests. And there's a fine balance between accountability and just doing away with tests. And I think anybody in here, anybody's been around for the last 5 or 6 years will agree that we have had tremendous progress made in education in the state of Georgia. And I'm a little bit concerned at this somewhat radical change and what I will call a reduction in accountability in some of these areas. You mentioned that some of the things that we can use for comparison of the SAT and ACT, well, those are not required. And we always have to explain the fact that our SAT scores are low because everybody takes them. So I'm a little bit concerned that we're going to make a fairly radical change here when all of our metrics have been trending up. I believe, I don't know all of them, but for the most part, we've had a pretty good run over the last 6, 7, 8 years in terms of what we've done. And I do have some reservations about some of the reductions. I know everybody wants to do away with testing, but we've got to make sure we've got enough accountability to be able to hold the line we're on and continue to go up, because like Chairman Benton said, when the educators or when people don't have the skin in the game there, then I'm not sure that they're going to put as much effort into to the final product that we need. So I have some concerns on that, and many of them I think would be echoes of what Chairman Jasper said, but I really don't want us to go backwards from where we've been and get off of that trajectory that we've been on. Thank you.
I don't know, there was a question, but I will say this too. When we talk about the norms referenced items in Milestone, I think that norms referenced items are important. I think it's important for us to be measuring ourselves against other states. If we're going to continue to have those norm referenced items in Milestones, I'd like to see some kind of reporting so that we can kind of understand where we are using that data.
Yes, sir.
The point that was something I was like, hey, if we're not going to use this data, if it's not coming back to us, if we're not using it, to make ourselves better, then why are we going to make the kids take those extra test questions? That's my thinking in that. If you want to put that in, I welcome that 100%, but I would also ask, hopefully we can have some reporting in there so we make sure that we're getting the information that we're getting to see the information that we're gleaning from those tests.
We're in concert. We're good.
Fantastic.
I'm sorry, if I may, I know that
Sure.
We are certainly, I want to be clear, not trying to get rid of or remove accountability. We certainly just want to make sure that we are both accurately assessing our students and that we are taking away the high stakes nature of the assessment so that we can see what they're doing and they're not stressed. I know that Senator Tempest, that he had submitted a bill that had already taken away some of the assessments that has been mentioned here multiple times. Today, even in the reduction of those assessments, we've continued to trend upwards in our achievement and our achievement ratings. I think additionally, we've been working at the department to address the high stakes nature of some of the assessments and really help teachers and districts with tools around the formative assessment. So this year we're providing a formative assessment that's aligned to state standards that is free and available to all districts so that teachers and districts are able to assess their students on their material and get real-time data back, which has often been a conversation that has been had. They're not having to wait to the end of the year to see where those students are, and they can adjust those assessments based on the standards, based on the material that they are teaching at the time to see if those students have grasped that, do a quick assessment, make those adjustments, and then reteach and focus that instruction if need be. So we really have been focused on how do we have that accountability in real time and how do we make that accountability work so that our students can improve.
Thank you, Ms. Tiffany. Ms. Tiffany and I have talked. Ms. Miranda, would you like to speak on this, or would you moved from over there to over here, so I thought you were getting close.
No, I'm okay.
Okay. Senator, do you want to wait? We have a couple of speakers, and then we'll end up. Betty Costley, I think you want to speak on this bill.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman and committee.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, committee members. I represent the Georgia Association of Educational Leaders. My name is Robert Costley, and I represent about 1,800 superintendents, principals, and assistant principals in the state of Georgia. I just want to reiterate a couple things and make a couple of extra points for your consideration. One is this bill was created with a lot of input from educators. This could be like a template of a process for superintendents. The governor and State Superintendent Woods did a great thing last year. They toured the entire state and they listened. And then they sought input after they got that initial feedback from teachers and educators, but mostly a lot of teachers and a lot of moms and dads. They solicited feedback from superintendents. It's okay, if we're going to draft a good bill, knowing that we're holding you accountable in your 182 systems, what would that look like? And then, of course, Senator Martin carrying that bill, it's been a very facilitative process. I had a couple of things that I wanted to share based on what I heard today as well. less tests. Being a former middle school principal and superintendent in Georgia, U.S. history is a touchy subject. U.S. history, is our understanding, is staying strong. It will be taught and tested in every Georgia high school in this state. The only social studies tests that are leaving is that economics test and that 5th grade test. So the economics test has been a little bit of a burr, but it would be removed from the high schools and your 5th grade social studies. You're going to keep 9th grade lit, you're going to keep Algebra 1, you're going to keep biology, and you're going to keep U.S. history. The only tests that are leaving the K through 8 would be that 5th grade social studies test. And so math and language arts and that commitment to literacy in the 3rd and 5th grade, sticking. The instructional window, which hasn't been discussed as much today, is very important too, because what happens a lot of times is the tests, the old CRCT and now the EOG, were taken in April, sometimes right after spring break, with 7 or 8 weeks left in the instructional calendar. Teachers have been saying for a long time, once the tests are over, it's hard to get the kids to commit. And I want to share that on behalf of our teachers, they are running all year long trying to cover standards for that test, instead of trying to get deep in those standards, so they're running. So we appreciate the fact that our leaders and the drafters of this bill have put that instructional window toward the last 5 weeks of school, regardless of what their calendars are. That final little piece, and I noticed that the conversation was interesting to me, is, because we're coming from the leadership aspect, that piece about the Georgia Department of Education providing support to help systems determine whether they're doing too much tests. I realize and I respect, because I got it too as a superintendent's desk, that you get parents calling you and saying, my system's doing too much testing. I was at the listening session in Gwinnett when the governor personally spoke and listened, and I heard a lot of those teachers say the same thing. But this is the one thing I just ask for consideration of this committee, or anybody that drafts future bills around this issue. If we get into practice and say shall, and we tell a system you may not do a certain amount of testing, we try to enumerate that. And then we say to them at the same time, but we're going to hold you accountable for your achievement. If we tell a system that we're going to call your plays for you, but then we're going to hold you accountable, that could put them in a bind. Those school systems are under a great amount of accountability. Every principal, if we send the message to a principal that you can't give a test if you think it's needed to get your students up, that test may be used to identify a group of students that could do better. So I would just ask the committee to consider not mandating some kind of number or trying to get into that business at local school systems to tell a principal or a superintendent when you cannot give a student a test, if we're going to continue to hold them accountable for that. But I guess I'll end by this, just thanking you for this bill. We are in support of this bill. We thank the governor. We thank Senator Martin. We appreciate your consideration as well.
Anyone have any questions for Buddy? Thank you. Margaret, do you have something you want to say?
Yes, Mr. Chair, thank you for the ability to speak, and I just wanted you to know that I submitted comments to Chairman Jaspers ahead of time via email, because we weren't sure with Senate and House Ed at the same time today if we'd be able to be here. So thank you, Mr. Chair, for the indulgence. Just very quickly, wanted to strongly voice support for this legislation on behalf of the 97,000 educators that I represent at Page, many of whom are classroom teachers. Also want to reiterate what some speakers have said, that teachers are accountable, administrators are accountable, all members of the school team are accountable, regardless of standardized testing. I have never seen educators take such personal and professional responsibility for students as they did this year, and we've waived standardized testing. So what's the lesson that we've learned from that? We're certainly not saying we need to reverse standardized testing. It has its place, but I want to lift that up as a demonstration of commitment and accountability. Second, just to speak to the issue of local testing, that continues to be a concern for many of our classroom teacher educators who are the bulk of our membership at Page. So my understanding of the current version of the bill is that it would allow DOE to help districts examine whether their local testing plans meet the goals of local stakeholders. And I hope that the final version of the bill does not prohibit that important service on the part of DOE, because local testing does continue to be controversial. It serves a purpose in many places, but I think we share Chairman Jasper's goal that local leaders and local stakeholders understand why those tests are being administered and what they're and what those tests are being used for. Thanks for the opportunity to speak today.
I just have, on that last note, they do this now, ma'am, without the law, not without this lines of legislation. They're doing it now, doing it effectively, from what I can understand, and going into DeKalb, Jasper, wherever, to help them evaluate and look at less testing, or more accurate testing is a better, I think, a better term that we need to start using to that people need. Ms. Stovall?
Thank you. I was just wondering, when we talked about removing the social studies in 5th grade, and that means that they're waiting to learn the basis of history that'll be required, I guess, to high school. And so that was the question I guess when I was making my notes about when it was going to be cut out. I think that was 5th grade. We're going to not do. I know the 8th grade was still doing the Georgia history, which is fine, but I thought I heard a comment about the no history for with the 5th grade.
Mr. Chairman, if I may,
Yes, sir.
we're not going to stop teaching.
No, I understand it,
social
but I'm
studies.
saying you're saying they won't be tested.
There's
for
not,
it.
well, and I'm sure they will test. I mean,
But it won't be
the
a
schools will do
required
that.
test.
Correct. Yeah,
Okay.
it's not a mandatory standardized test that's going to be required of the students by the state. I would assume that they're going to continue to teach it, and they're going to continue to assess the progress of the students at the district level, but it won't be a state requirement.
Okay, I was just thinking far ahead, I guess, that, you know, making a requirement in the higher grades that, you know, that could have been opening up. I mean, if it was taught in the 5th grade, and then in the higher grades, being able to have some more opportunities beyond just that particular U.S. history being a standardized test.
And if I'm not mistaken, I think it is required in high school. So
Is
if
that
I'm
federal
not
requirement?
mistaken, and
The U.S. history is not a federal requirement.
Okay,
So
there's
was
something
one
that
of
the
key-
state,
yeah.
that we did as a state.
Correct.
Okay.
Got it.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, ma'am. You bet. Any other questions? Okay, I'll be around, of course, tomorrow, and you can just come see me if you have questions or concerns. Senator, I'll be getting with you as I create a substitute. We have a meeting set for Friday at 2:30, and I'm not sure what our position is going to be on meeting. You know, you may know. Are we going to be in on Saturday? I've heard we are, and I've heard we're not. But we're not. Well, you know, that's almost Father's Day, and you know. But anyway, but we'll do that. We also have a meeting scheduled on the books Miss Lisa got for us on Monday, and so we'll be trying to push. There's a number of bills out there that we're still trying to look at, still trying to get through. But this one does have the most importance, absolutely, in getting it done. And you got my word. I'm going to do that. But that's we've had our business, and we'll adjourn our education meeting. And take your packets of paper with you and either put them in the trash or take them with you, so Miss Courtney doesn't have to touch your papers. Or I'll have to, because she's not going to. Huh? You can keep the gym clip. You can keep that gym clip.